What's up, War Report family? I am your host, C Dub. It's just Wednesday, but it's already been a wild week of recruiting news. And tonight we preview Big Cat Weekend, even though it's going to occur later in the month. Caleb Jones joins us, as well as Mike G and Nike Jones, to cover that and talk about who we should expect on that weekend. All that and more in the latest edition of the Midweek Report. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of the Midweek Report, brought to you by Auburn Sports.com. Guys, they have been rocking with us for quite a while. So one of the ways you can support us is by heading over there and checking out their content. Shout out to JG Tate and all those guys over there for doing what they do. Also, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we'll be very gracious and grateful for you guys if you was to share this video on social media, Facebook, Twitter, using the hashtag, even adding us so that we can see that you shared it. Smash that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. You may see people commenting and they may have a green name and you may get jealous and want to figure out how you can get one of those. I can tell you just how you can do that.
Click that good join button right down there. We appreciate everybody who has continued to be a part of Green Name Gang, and we want to continue to give you guys great benefits for that. So go ahead and join, and we'll be doing more film reviews as we get closer to the season, more stuff to talk about. So definitely looking forward to seeing you all in here with the Green Name Gang Thursdays film review sessions. If you want to gift a membership to someone and you already are a member, you could do that right now from the live chat. So go ahead, give someone else the gift of the War Report. 1 month free on you. After that, it's on you. You got to keep your own membership up. We're going to give away another War Report t-shirt today, sponsored by War Eagle Oil. Make sure that you all put in hashtag Get Your Weight Up into the live chat to be able to be entered for a chance to win this t-shirt. We usually do that drawing right around the 1 hour mark. So make sure that you get your hashtags in there and we will do that drawing. And somebody's going to walk away with a free t-shirt courtesy of War Eagle Oil. And if you didn't know, podcast network on and popping, our friends at the College Loop. Auburn Express is our pod, the Uptempo podcast. That is the War Report podcast network now. Make sure that you subscribe to all of those different channels and get all of the different perspectives on what we have going on with Auburn Sports. There's a lot going on out here and a lot of great voices coming from the podcast network. So thank you very much.
And we are now joined by Caleb Jones of auburnsports.com. Caleb, how are you doing, sir? I assume you're doing well.
What's going on? Y'all hear me good?
Yep. Yeah. Yes, sir. We can hear you. We can hear you. Been a very interesting week. It started with some good news about Big Cat Weekend in terms of a certain guy that we're expecting who's currently committed to Bama. More on that later. DJ Barber, 4-star according to Rivals, 4-star linebacker, committed yesterday, but moment got a kind of stepped on a little bit by some big news by a certain receiver out of Phoenix City who made a commitment to A&M. Bit unexpected, but I know, Caleb, you've been covering Cam Coleman throughout his recruitment. What did you make of that commitment and the whole fallout?
Well, I think for most everybody, that was a bit of a surprise. I know it was for me because we've been talking about it. Cam Coleman was I think it was anticipated that he would make his decision a little later on in the year. So for him to commit yesterday, I think it was a little bit of a shocker. And I think it was just shocking to see him go to Texas A&M so early. But at the same time, it's still early, I think. I still think Auburn has a shot to pull him in. They're going to have to do some work, but I mean, you still got a chance, so you got to fight for him.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that people kind of allude to is NIL here, because one of the things that we argue about, even I heard Ike talk about it on the morning drop. Auburn has to show a product on the field for these recruits. When I look at A&M, they ain't had much product on the field to show offensively either the past few years. So it makes you wonder with their head coach being on the hot seat. It has to be NIL, right? Like what would be the thing you think would make him not only commit early, but to a team that many thought was maybe not even second. I think FSU was perceived to be Auburn's biggest threat for Cam Coleman. But what do you make of that idea that NIL has played perhaps made a major part?
I mean, you've seen recruiting change just in the past few years ever since NIL it's become its own aspect of recruiting. So I think NIL definitely plays a factor in where a kid goes. And in this case, when you do have somebody as talented as Cam Coleman, it definitely, at some point or another, like it's definitely a factor in that decision. You got to do what's best for you. And so I definitely do think NIL played a role in Cam Coleman's decision to go to Texas A&M, but I don't think it's the only contributing factor. I mean, every other like Auburn, every other school has been trying to build that relationship with Cam, and then you have such a big NIL collective at Texas A&M that certainly doesn't hurt, and I think at some point or another, maybe that's the thing that does push someone like Cam Coleman to commit to A&M.
Well, let's talk about it. We're talking about Big Cat Weekend, which is a few weeks out, but the list is getting quite impressive. Given Cam Coleman's recent commitment, are we to expect him at this point? You think to attend Big Cat, or is the staff going to have to kind of take a step back and reevaluate how they've been recruiting him up to this point?
That's a good question. I do think it's a bit early. Maybe Cam Coleman shows up, but I mean, typically after a commitment like this, like there's gonna be a period where it kind of cools off, where they're not gonna be any visits. It takes a little bit for someone like Cam Coleman or just a recruit in general to maybe start exploring other options. So I would not anticipate seeing Cam Coleman at Big Cat Weekend at the moment. That could change in the future because recruiting is always changing. So it'll be interesting to see that dynamic kind of going forward. And I I would imagine you're gonna see Cam Coleman at an Auburn game, maybe two this fall. I feel like that's something that would happen. Um, just based off of how close it is. Why not? He's got a good relationship with Marcus Davis, and being close, it's probably not going to take a lot to convince Cam Coleman to at least go to a game this fall. Because it's like you mentioned earlier, like it's about that on-field product. That on-field product is going to be way different this year than it was last year. So any game that Cam Coleman's seen up until this point is not anything Hugh Freeze or Marcus Davis is running. So seeing a game this year is equally as important for Auburn as it is for Cam Coleman.
Previewing other visitors, who do you have your eyes on in terms of names that have been released that are expected to be at Big Cat Weekend? I know Perry Thompson is one, but who are you keeping your eyes locked in on?
Barry Thompson is number one. I think that's the number one guy that you're going to want to keep your eyes on as far as Auburn and who they like and who they are really going after, especially now that Cam Coleman is committed to Texas A&M. The push for Perry Thompson I would imagine is going to heat up tremendously. But another guy to keep an eye on would be KJ Bolden. He'll make his decision shortly after Big Cat Weekend, so you're going to have that final push, that final attempt to really sell yourself if you're Auburn to one of the best players in the 24 class. Georgia commit Demarcus Riddick is expected to be there as well. That's kind of viewed as a three-team race essentially right now between Georgia, Alabama, and Auburn. Georgia obviously kind of still holding the edge as he's committed to Georgia. But that's what it's going to kind of boil down to. So those are some big names. There's going to be a lot of other names that pop up. As kids are kind of starting to figure out where they want to be towards the end of July once the dead period is kind of over. So that list is going to keep growing. You're going to see a bunch of talented names in the 24 class, I would expect. I would expect a bunch of names in the 25 class that are going to be, big names down the road. Um, I do think this year's Big Cat Weekend is probably going to be the best Big Cat Weekend as far as talent and 5 stars, 4 stars, just top guys. I think it's going to be the best Big Cat Weekend that Auburn's seen in several years.
How long you're saying that in regard to like how much talent is coming, or like the fanfare that's going to be around, like what they're doing?
No, just the amount, like the talented kids that are coming, like the amount of just high profile targets that are going to be there. I think you're going to see a little bit of a longer list than you have in the last couple of years.
One person who is expected to be there is Jalen Crawford, who was expected to announce recently, but I think he's pushed it back. How are you feeling about him? Is Auburn still in good shape for Jalen Crawford?
I think Auburn's in decent shape for Jalen Crawford. I think it's really just a race right now between maybe Auburn and Florida or LSU, one of those three schools. It's going to be interesting because it's like you said, he did push his announcement, and so for a guy like that, I think Auburn's still very much in the race for him. But maybe the announcement's going to come a little later, as to where he's going. So Auburn's much in the race, and a visit for Big Cat would certainly help their chances, I would think.
A few other names to mention here. Zaquan Patterson was a big one that was announced, a DB, and also Jalewis Solomon is expected to be there. He's another DB, a 4-star kid out of Georgia. Any intel on any of those guys? I mean, we have a pretty impressive list of DBs that Auburn is recruiting. So a big ups to our DB coaches for just putting the full court press on those guys. But anything you can tell us about those?
Yeah, it's like you said, a lot of DBs are coming in, and Auburn's done a really good job recently of recruiting defensive backs, and so it's no shocker that you're going to see a bunch of DBs coming in for Big Cat Weekend. Zach Etheridge, Coach Crime Dog, those guys do a really good job, and then the DB room. But yeah, Zaquan Patterson and Jalewis Solomon, those are a couple guys that are going to they're on a lot of people's radars. Solomon just dropped his top 5, I think, and Auburn's, I think, in a good spot with him. He's been to Auburn a couple of times. I know they saw him. Patterson, I don't think, has been to Auburn as much as Solomon has. But Solomon, I know, likes Auburn a lot, thinks highly of them. So I think Auburn's in good standing with both of those guys, and Big Cat Weekend can go a long way.
Do you think that there will be? I mean, it's weeks out, so it's difficult to tell. Yeah. But do you think that it's a good chance that, based on the momentum, if Auburn continues to carry this momentum, that Auburn can land one of these guys at Big Cat Weekend?
Yeah, Big Cat Weekend. You saw last year there were a couple of commitments that kind of came from Big Cat Weekend, and that's what Big Cat can be. It's kind of your closing statement from summer visits, summer officials, kind of getting ahead into the fall. So I definitely do think it's very possible that you could see some commitments kind of come out of Big Cat Weekend. Whether or not who it is, that's like that list is going to keep growing. So we'll kind of have to see down the road as to where Auburn is kind of trending with certain guys. But yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility that you're going to see a commitment come out of Big Cat Weekend.
Any questions, Mike, Ike? Y'all want to jump in there?
Yeah, no, I think, listen, the Cam Coleman thing, we talked about on the drop this morning. Ike's got this like devious, like,
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to hear what you're actually going to say about this. So, yeah.
Sinister thing going on. Look, we talked a little bit about culture, being a culture fit this morning, and Cam. We talked about winning your backyard. Part of what we talked about, Ike, before the broadcast started was, I think the challenge in winning your backyard is that some of these kids want to actually get away from home.
Yeah.
Right. They want to go see something else, and I grew up in this area. So like, I definitely understand that. Cam is a good kid, and, A&M, I think will definitely be an experience for him. So if it doesn't work out, it's a long time between now and December, first and foremost. Right. So, they're making these commitments. I think it's surprising that it was made now, but ultimately, he's making a decision that he thinks right now is in his best interest, and I think that will continue to be evaluated over the next few months, and over his first year at A&M, if that's ultimately where he signs. So I don't, people will point to this and say that Hugh Freeze, missed. There'll be some who say he missed, but this was close. Like people will not understand how close this was between A&M and Auburn. And you and I talked about not having that proof of concept means to Hugh Freeze right now. And after you put something on the field, maybe he reevaluates what that means. Only Cam Coleman knows. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I just think, hey, he made this decision. He's A&M, as there are opportunities offensively out there, right? There are opportunities, and when I say opportunities, I mean their offense was poor,
right,
and in desperate need of help. Now, I'd argue on the Plains, they needed a lot of help as well, too. So ultimately, I think it's clear what happened here, man. I went to A&M one time. I saw hella Bugattis, Caleb. There were a lot of Bugattis down there. So we got to get our Bugatti game up on the Plains. So
what's going on?
So we get land more Cam Coleman's. I'm joking. But, yeah, listen, it was close. This was a close race. And I think this staff pulled out all the stops for Cam Coleman, and they're going to continue to pull out stops. But I don't know. I wouldn't keep my hopes up that he flips back. I wouldn't. That's just me personally. I wouldn't keep my hopes up that he flips back.
And again, you said it's a long way between now and December. Like Caleb pointed out, and I didn't mention this earlier, I always thought that Auburn was going to have to play the long game regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is why his commitment came as such a surprise for a lot of people, because whoever landed him was going to have to play the long game. Obviously, that didn't turn out to be the case for A&M, but in Auburn's case, it is. And with him being in close proximity, there will be opportunities to get him on campus, as Caleb said. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, especially if Auburn does show improve on the field with its quarterback, wide receiver play, improved play at those positions. Maybe that gets his attention. Obviously, the coaching staff will be in his ear. And you kind of got to hope that Jimbo and Bobby get off on the wrong foot this year, and maybe it's a little chaos. Who knows?
Listen, Auburn and A&M were tied in a lot of ways. And this kid said both places felt like home. Both places felt like home. And then you start going into the tiebreakers that we talk about all the time. Right? One place is right up the road from my school, my high school, and the other is a whole new world for me to explore. I mean, look, I believe Auburn has one of the best on-campus experiences anywhere. And even just as a student, I'm not talking just as like a student athlete, just as a student. Since we were in school there in the early 2000s, Auburn has one of the best campuses. It's got one of the best setups. The Tiger Transit was amazing back then. I hear it's even more amazing now, right? You can, blow your bursar bill more places. Auburn is amazing. Right? Remember the Tiger card, ascending bounds, descending bounds, right? So, like, I personally think that there were just a few things there, for him to weigh in. And these kids have so much to weigh when they're trying to make these decisions. Auburn put on a full court press. I don't think that it stops. But in my discussion with him, he sounded pretty resolute in his decision. So we'll see. They're not going to stop recruiting him.
It's a long time.
Long
way off. So we'll see. Let's get into a respect for Caleb's time. Let's grab some questions and comments from our chat here. Daniel Owen joins us. Appreciate you for being here. Appreciate the question. Is Perry Thompson going to be coming to AU, or is he using Big Cat Weekend to recruit for that other team?
I think there's legit interest in Auburn from Perry Thompson. I really do believe that it's essentially a coin flip. Big Cat Weekend's going to be huge for Auburn and the recruitment of Perry Thompson. So I don't think that he's using Big Cat Weekend to recruit for the other team. I think he wants to genuinely get down to Auburn and see what's going on even more, continue to build those relationships because I think there is genuine interest.
And Bama also has a recruiting event that weekend as well. So for him to be a Bama commit visiting Big Cat Weekend, it's pretty telling about where Auburn stands with this kid, I would imagine. So,
I mean, if he's already committed to Bama, how much more does he need to see of it, right?
Yeah, listen, I'd be shocked if Perry Thompson doesn't flip. I'd be shocked if he doesn't flip. Yeah. So, Hugh Freeze and these guys, I mean, they're doing such a great job putting in the effort in recruiting. To Ike's point, like, what more do you need to see of them? You don't really need to see anymore. You know what they are, right? And you're only here because, I think if you're interested, if there's legit interest, and, I'd be shocked if he's not on Auburn's final list of commitments come December.
My only pushback is that we've seen what Bama does with a guy before they make a decision.
Sure.
They either get them on campus or they go visit or something to stop them from visiting Auburn. We've seen this movie play out many times in our head-to-head battles with Bama. So as we get closer to Big Cat, I want to see him on campus. I want to hear that he's touched down in Auburn for Big Cat Weekend, and I can somewhat release or give a sigh of relief in that regard. So again, we've seen that played out. I'm playing the waiting game on that one. Okay. And Robinson, go ahead.
I think it's like Mike was saying, things are kind of looking like a flip might happen at some point, but I wouldn't believe it until it actually happens. Like, that's one of those things. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's Bama, you never really know until it actually is. Right. It's done deal. He does flip. Let's say he doesn't, you never really know with that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I hear you, Caleb, but counterpoint, put all your eggs in one basket, bet it all on black, bet the farm.
Go big or go home.
Go big or go home. All right.
You got to now. You
put
got
the whole
to.
Bet the 401k. Withdraw everything.
All the Bugattis.
Yeah, see? Me and you, we're going to be Bugatti buddies in 3 years. See you at the gas station.
If you don't put all your eggs in one basket, there is a craver out there. Ant Robinson says that we can still get him. What are your thoughts about what the staff is looking at in terms of wide receivers? This is a kid who actually recently named Auburn a favorite over Florida. It was kind of a back and forth, but I know Auburn was trying to see what would happen with Perry Thompson and Cam Coleman. What do you feel about Craver at this point? Is he still pretty warm on Auburn, hot on Auburn?
Yeah, the commitment of Cam Coleman, that's big, because I do think when you're Auburn, you're looking at Perry Thompson, you're looking at Cam Coleman, and you can't take every receiver, but you want the Cam Colemans, you want the Perry Thompsons, and so those were their top guys. Those still are their top guys, and so Craver is that other guy that they're looking at, and so I do still think you can get Craver if you want him. It's just, is Craver gonna go with Auburn, or is he gonna go with Florida? I think those are the two schools that it's going to kind of come down to for him.
Yeah. We got a few more. Let's see here. Sherman Sawyer asked, when is Big Cat Weekend? I believe that is the 29th of this month. Am I correct on that, Caleb?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be that last weekend of July.
Okay, so that's the 29th on that Saturday, I believe. See here. Legit says, any chance landing DJ Barber helps us with Mbakwe?
This is a good question. Maybe. It's great to see your teammate succeed, but it doesn't. I don't think having a teammate committed to Auburn necessarily helps as much as maybe some people think. Mbakwe seems pretty solid in his Alabama commitment. I think he's definitely more solid in his Alabama commitment than Thompson is, for sure. But you never know. I know Auburn's still going after Mbakwe hard. That's a guy that they really want to get. But yeah, it may help a little bit, but I don't think it's going to help to where, DJ Barber's all of a sudden committed to Auburn. I'm going to flip to Auburn because of it, But you never know. having your teammates there, like, it says a lot. I think that Auburn recruits DJ Barber, they recruit Mario Craver, they recruit Clay Chalkville in general. So you'll see how it plays out. But I don't feel confident that Mbakwe is gonna. I don't think he's trending towards a flip towards Auburn at all, honestly.
I know you got to get out of here, but Khalil House, do you know what happened with that? Like, it seemed like that was kind of moving in our direction, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, Stanford, right? Like, you have any ideas what's going on?
Yeah, I think that was all Auburn. Up until I think House visited Stanford the weekend before committing, and I think Stanford kind of just literally snuck in and snagged him. I think that's what happened. But House was all Auburn for the most part before his Stanford visit, I think, and then the Stanford visit kind of changed things for him, and he committed to Stanford instead. So.
Do you think, before you get out of here, last question, do you think our coaching staff will be a bit more conservative with bat signals and eye emojis in the future with these recruits?
I don't even know if he heard
he didn't hear it? Are you here, Caleb? Can you hear us? Uh-oh, yeah. I think we lost him.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Okay, there you
go. Okay. I was asking, do you think moving forward, this coaching staff will be a bit more conservative with his bat signals and eye emojis?
Man, I don't know about that. It's fun. It's all just fun and games, honestly.
Oh goodness. Well, listen, Caleb, we know you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's fun because like is the same weekend I think that Perry Thompson was there, and so I think that was kind of getting everybody riled up and seeing what's going on with that. I think it's all fun. It's all part of the process. It's part of recruiting. It gives fan engagement. You know, it gets people excited, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But
I hear you. Listen, Caleb, I know you got to get out of here, but tell the people how they can find your content and how they can reach you.
For sure. Yeah, I'm on auburnsports.com. That's where we be writing, we be podcasting. And you can find me on Twitter at CalebJ_rivals. So that's where you can find me at.
Well, Caleb, we appreciate you, man, taking time to kind of hop on and talk a little bit of recruiting with us. Obviously, we're going to try to reach out to you, have you come back on as we get a little bit closer to Big Cat. Some of these lists will have even more players added to the list, probably for future classes. So we'd love to have you back on to kind of talk more of these kids.
For sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, y'all, listen, you've been watching the Midweek Rapport. First half, share this content so the people can find it. Like and smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. Pay some bills and acknowledge our sponsors.
This edition of the War Rapport is brought to you by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Harmon Mechanical, a heating and air company offering premier service to the Auburn area and surrounding areas. Give them a call at 334-219-0717 or head over to their website at harmonmechanical.com. Let them know the War Rapport sent you. Harmon Mechanical. We're there when you need air. And our giveaway sponsor, War Eagle Oil. For all of your motor oil and related products, head over to wareagleoil.com. Yes, indeed. Thank you to the sponsors of the War Report. Thank you to those of you who have become members of the War Report. We appreciate you all patronizing us in that way. If you want to become a patron, you can hit that join button right now. We have film review content going up. We got so much stuff coming up. It is 2 weeks away from SEC Media Days. A lot of great content coming for you guys. SEC Media Days. The season is on the horizon. Members get access to being able to get free tickets from the War Report to games. Listen, them season tickets are sold out, buddy. So you better get on board if you want to get some tickets here soon. The War Report might be the only place to get tickets coming up in a little bit here. So make sure that you guys lock in with us, and we're going to be giving those tickets away every week, 2 free tickets to every home game. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership to somebody else, you can do that from the live chat. We appreciate everybody who continues to gift memberships. YouTube randomly assigns this to someone who interacts with the content. So get a free month of membership on somebody else, essentially. And giveaways happening at the hour mark. Get your weight up is the hashtag you need to put in the live chat. And somebody's going to get a free War Report t-shirt sponsored by War Eagle Oil. Make sure you hashtag get your weight up in the live chat to be able to be a part of that drawing. Let me not forget. If you're feeling a little heated about what's going on right now, you know where I'm going. Harmon Mechanical is the place that you can go to get your AC situation straightened out. If you're in the Auburn area, head to harmonmechanical.com. You can give them a call at 334-219-0717 to set up an initial consultation. Harmon Mechanical is there when you need air.
I like that. I like that. Harmon Mechanical helps you cool off if you're heated about this. I like that. I see what you did there, Ike. Daniel Owen has been listening to the Uptempo podcast, and it's a really great addition to the War Report fam.
Hey.
Really digging this podcast network.
Hey, listen,
Me
we got more
too.
to come. We got more to come.
Yeah, man. We're not stopping, man. So we're trying to become one of the definitive voices of the fan culture in Auburn. So make sure you guys keep rocking with us, man. Just know we're still working.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brad Browning says A&M lost to the worst Auburn team in 10 or 11 years. Losing a recruit from our own backyard to them hurts a bit.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with Brad here. I get it. I get it
too.
I get it. But ultimately, these are complex decisions for these guys. And they've got to make decisions that they feel like are in their own best interest. So, you've been dating long enough. You've probably gotten the "it's not you, it's me" speech, right? Like, and sometimes it's right. Like, ain't got nothing to do with me. It's you. So, I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's what happened here. Is I don't think that Auburn did anything wrong here at all. I don't.
Yeah, and like we talked about this morning, man. The reactions from people that are saying that this staff just doesn't know how to close these 5-star kids, and like
year one is hard, man.
I mean, it's not easy, period, bro. Like, it's not as if, like, again, I don't like going through all these numbers over and over again. There aren't a lot of 5 stars to be had, period, in a recruiting class, right? There's a limited number of them. And there are schools that have a distinct advantage towards landing those guys more consistently. So Auburn not landing one when they haven't proven anything on the field yet is just that's not a wild thing. I get people got their hopes up about it because they thought, oh man, this person and this person's crystal balling him to Auburn. He's definitely coming here, and you want to be able to go out there and dunk on everybody else on social media. Oh, we got Cam Cole. Like, I get it. I 100% do get it. But like, to go to the level of this staff isn't capable of doing this, and they haven't been on the field for Coach Hugh Freeze at all yet, I'm just like, bro, y'all really got to settle down. You really do. Like, and I know I'm always the one preaching patience and chill, but like, before the first game, fam, that's what we're doing before the first game. They're already incompetent and can't land. Like, and I'm not saying that's everybody. I get that that's a vocal minority, but they're loud and stupid. And I just don't want you to be loud and stupid. Just be quiet about your stupidity. Like that makes it a little bit easier
Just be quiet
for other people to digest whatever you're putting out into the atmosphere, because you're not being loud and stupid at the same time.
So in other words, we can't do anything about you being stupid. Just be
I can't fix that part, but you can fix your volume level.
Got it. Listen, I'm not big on moral victories, but again, this coaching staff has been on campus 7 months. And to see them make inroads and catch up with a lot of these kids in the 2024 class has been amazing. And you have to understand that there will be some losses here and there. Like, this staff is playing catch up. I don't know how serious Cam Coleman was about Auburn before Hugh Freeze even got there. And Texas A&M has been around for a while. So I think for them, Auburn to make up the ground that they made has been impressive. You will experience some losses here and there, especially to Ike's point. You haven't shown much on the field. So Give him some time. I think we begin to win more of these battles than we lose moving forward. And who knows? This class ain't done. I think we'll still be happy with this class once it's all pans out.
Yeah.
Rodney Gilbert asks, who do we get if we miss out on Thompson? We mentioned Mario Craver. There's been a few other receivers that Auburn has had on campus. We'll see how this plays out. Auburn is still putting the full court press, and they're still going to try to go after Cam Coleman. I think once they begin to switch gears and focus on some of the other receivers, they've had some come visit, but I think it's kind of early to tell who are the plan Bs if Auburn were to miss out on Thompson or Cam Coleman and whatnot. So,
and listen, Craver, I don't think it was an either or proposition for him about Cam Cole or for Auburn about Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, and Craver.
Right.
They played different positions on the field, right? So they could be on the field concurrently and it not be a problem. That's not to say that Auburn couldn't get both Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson on the field at the same time if they were running, them as both as outside receivers. But it is less likely that both of them would be landed because they do play the same position. Craver is going to be a slot guy for Auburn. He's not going to be an outside receiver.
They got Bryce Kane though.
Right. But I'm saying though, my point is the Cam Coleman thing is kind of separate from that. Bryce Kane is more of the guy that you would think to yourself, well, they already have him. Do they have a spot for me to get on the field? The answer to that would still be yes. When they go to a 4-receiver set, you're going to have 2 slot guys out there, but that would be more of a concern. So if you see them get another small shifty receiver, then Craver becomes less likely because that's less snaps that he could even potentially get, because you got to look at Jay Fair's definitely still going to be here next year. And he's going to likely be the leader in that room next year, right? So because Var's not going to be here, and you still have Caleb. What's the guy we just got from Ohio State? Caleb. Somebody help me. Caleb Burton, right? Who's going to be a slot guy who's going to be here, right? So that's really more so what you need to be thinking about is if there's another slot receiver that goes out there, that lessens your chances with Craver, unless Craver becomes that other slot guy that we land in this class. And then you have to look at other slot guys that are higher rated or just below him rated that would say to themselves, I'm not going to beat this guy out, so I'll go elsewhere, right?
Yeah, again, this staff has a list of guys that they'll probably pivot to once they if in the event that they realize they're missing out on Thompson, Coleman, those guys, there are other receivers that I do expect them to go after. So we'll definitely keep our eyes on that. Hopefully that's not the case and we get at least one of these guys. Philip Coleman, no relation, says this Cam Coleman commitment goes to show you that you can't predict what a 17-year-old is thinking. Committed today, decommit the next week.
Yeah, which is why I am super hesitant to ever get too excited about a commitment. Like, we'll talk about it, and it's a good sign about the direction of things, but none of this, like, until they sign, it's not over. So be happy about it today. Hopefully they continue to build on those things. Don't get too down on the ones that don't commit to you. Hopefully they can sway them back in your direction, but it's not over until signing day happens. And even then, it ain't really over. Like, if we're being clear, depending on where they're going and what situation they're going to, it's not definitely over then. So we'll see.
For sure. Hot Dog Water says, if we are keeping it really real, the commitments don't mean much. This is what you were saying, until they sign. Some of these kids that are committed now might not become signing day.
My only counter to this is that because of early signing day, kids are actually shutting things down a little bit earlier than normal. Right. Yeah. And they are trying to get committed to the programs they're going to be at. Because if you plan on being in spring ball, you don't have a lot of time to change your mind. So you got to remember, Cam Coleman has one more season to play. Right. He's got football to play this fall.
Right.
Right. And he's going to be focused on finishing out his senior season strong. And once it's over, he's got like 45 days before if he plans to be enrolled for spring ball, before that decision has to be solid. So, this is why I'm telling people, I again, I spoke to him. He sounded pretty resolute in his decision, and I would not hold my breath for it flip at this point. Yeah, I'm not saying it can't happen, but ultimately, the recruiting timelines have changed.
Right.
They've definitely changed.
Especially if you're a guy, as stated from in the situation with both he and Perry Thompson that want to have an opportunity to play year one. Right. That early signing period is everything to you then, because you want to be on campus in the spring. So if you don't get in, then it's not going to happen. Right. So early signing day becomes that much more important for guys who want to start out of, if that's a portion of what you want to do, then you gotta find somewhere that you can get committed to earlier in that early signing period so that you can figure out how to get on campus that spring.
And I think also the thing to keep in mind too is something that I see these kids are doing is that they're shutting down their recruiting. Once they commit, they're saying, "Hey, I'm done. Don't contact me. I'm 100% committed. I'm focusing on my season." Keep an eye on that as well with some of these kids. If they shut down their commitment, it probably is a done deal.
Right. Listen, man, that's tough, bro. Like you're trying to deal with all of these people who want to come to your games and figuring out, how to link with them during the game week and all that. Like if you just want to focus on your senior year and have fun, it's like, hey man, don't blow up my phone this year. I went through this for most of these guys, if they're 4 and 5 stars, they've been going through this for 2 or 3 years already.
Sure.
This season, I don't want it to be about that. I want it to be about me and my guys in this locker room. We're going to go out here and try to win the state championship wherever they're from. Don't show up at my games. Don't come to my house trying to talk to my mama. Don't do none of that stuff. I'm good. I made my commitment. That's where I want to be. Don't blow my phone up. None of that stuff, man. Yeah. I'm not taking no more visits. We ain't trying to figure out how I'm going to get to your school and then be back for practical. I'm not doing none of that my senior year. I'm done. Stop calling me.
Yeah. Timelines have changed. They've changed.
So yeah, keep an eye on that. If you don't hear that, then coaches will still continue to go after these kids.
I mean, and some people will still try to like, hey man, I just want to check, see how you do. Like, listen, man, dirty macking. That's what B Will's word. Dirty macking is a thing, bro. Like just because you said, there are many engagement photos up on social media with somebody sliding in that inbox 30 seconds later. I'm off the market. You sure?
Yeah.
That's nasty, but
it happens. It happens.
It's nasty. Nasty business. All right. Von Nigel Brooks says Demarcus Riddick has a commitment date of July 26th, with Big Cat being July 29th and him expected to be there. Does that spell flip?
I don't know.
I mean, the timeline definitely looks weird for you to commit and then go take another visit to another school. But again, that commitment doesn't mean he shut down his recruitment. It just means that he's putting pressure on somebody to say, all right, I got somebody, so I don't really need you no more. What you gonna do to sway me in a different direction?
All right. And again, I'm impressed with the fact that Auburn has made a lot of grounds with this guy. And again, this is a testament to the hard work that this coaching staff has done in terms of trying to get these kids to commit to Auburn in such a short period of time. Stephen Keel says, all talk about wide receivers, but O-line recruiting is crap right now.
I mean, yes and no, right? Like they definitely have some work to do, but there's a lot of quality offensive linemen that are still out there, that are still on Auburn's board, that they're pushing hard for. And I don't, like, again, people have to remember, man, they're behind the 8 ball here with a lot of these kids because they just haven't had that opportunity, which is why they worked so hard to get people transferred in during this offseason and bolstering that first class. So they have guys with multiple years of eligibility to give themselves more space in case they couldn't land another 6 linemen, right, in this signing class. So yes, but there's time. So this is we're not, I don't think we're in the same situation where we're going to go multiple years without signing multiple linemen in a signing class.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think from listening to other sites, they have mentioned that the recruiting class at O-line and D-line to a lesser extent is not a lot of linemen out there this year. And so Auburn has been recruiting kind of nationally. That's why you hear the Preston kid from Hawaii. I think another kid from California has come in. Like they're recruiting all over the place, trying to get some guys in, and they've been doing that. But whoever they get out of high school, they're probably going to also supplement that with some portal guys as well. So that's an option as well when it comes to O-line. This coaching staff did a pretty good job this offseason recruiting for the O-line. So I have no doubts that they'll be able to shore up that position some way or another.
Yeah, and I think the relationships that Josh Aldridge already had established, not Josh Aldridge, excuse me, O-line coach. Why
now I just had a brain fart. Put people in the checking numbers with that.
But yeah, I think the relationships he had, because it's not as if he's still in conference, right? So those relationships
Jake
are
Thornton.
still,
Jake Thornton.
Thornton, thank you. The relationships Thornton had established when he was at Ole Miss, I think that there's something that can be said about him being able to preserve those relationships and just continue it at a new school. So I don't think that we are dead in the water when it comes to offensive line. I understand people want it to be further along, but there's still a lot of time left and a lot of guys, again, that are still high priority for this. There were people who not only were we out of it with, but were committed at other places, didn't want to hear anything else from Auburn, that are currently on Auburn's roster due to the recruiting that this staff did. Connor Lew comes to mind. Connor Lew didn't want nothing else to do with Auburn, bro. He was done. Coach Hugh Freeze gets on campus. They bring Jake Thornton in. They figure out how, and Connor Lew's currently on Auburn's roster. There's time.
Yeah. Philip Coleman says supposedly the word is that Thompson is supposed to be going to Bama the Wednesday prior to Big Cat, one-on-one with all the coaches.
I bet you.
Yeah, they want to make another, like, if
right.
this is the last official visit you're taking, we need to talk to you before you go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Here's a bag from me. Here's a bag from him. Here's a bag from him. Any questions? They go throw the whole Brinks truck on his front lawn to try to stop this train that is Hugh Freeze. Let Hugh Freeze mess around and get 1-5. Like, was it we were talking about, like, the lack of 5 stars landed by Auburn in all these so-called great recruiting classes. Man, let Hugh Freeze go out and get one legit 5-star that comes here and plays like a 5-star.
Right.
And the recruiting floodgates will open. And recruits will fall from heaven like manna. Dude, I'm telling you, if he gets one and he does anything with it, it will be a huge change from what we've seen traditionally, with big-time recruits coming in here and either playing average or busting. I think Hugh Freeze is going to, he's going to produce some DK Metcalf for us, man.
Yeah.
I think he can do it. And I think fans should be excited about that, and they should, just really, really anticipate that all this effort that's going in will not be for naught.
Philip Coleman comes back and says, so if a kid shuts down recruiting but still comes up to campus and try to come to games, do y'all think the staff will nip that in the bud?
So you're saying
if he commits elsewhere?
He commits elsewhere, but he still wants to take OVs, and he says he shut down his recruiting. Is that what you're asking? Like, so they'd be like, all right, well, I'm not paying for you to come down here. If that's, I don't know.
He may have already officially visited, I think. But if he does want to come to a game or check out a game,
I just don't know why you would shut your recruitment down and then still take OVs. If you're going to take an unofficial, it's your money. Do what you want to.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stop you from attending a game. But if you're asking me to pay the bill for you to come down here and you've already committed to somebody else, I don't know about that one. Not if you said your commitment is shut down.
Right. And again, I think the coaches will do a good job of talking to the kid just to see where his head is at before they even extend that type of energy towards that kid. So I think as long as the kid is listening, this coaching staff will continue to talk to him, regardless of what they may have said. So Colby Ritchie says Riddick is on record saying once he commits, he's shutting it down. So that's kind of interesting then. If he's committing on the 26th, but visiting on Big Cat.
Yeah, if you're to take him at his word that he's going to commit 3 days before he's scheduled to visit here, then one of two things is going to be true. It's Auburn, or he commits somewhere else and he cancels his Big Cat visit.
Right.
Like it can't be both. Like there's literally no reason for him to come to Big Cat if he's going to shut it down after he makes the commitment.
Lawrence Robinson, appreciate you being on, says, can NFL players visit the school on these big recruiting events? Like, could DK, Treadwell, and AJ Brown be there?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's definitely possible if they're
available. Yeah. Listen, anybody can be there. If Hugh Freeze's, invite.
Yeah. I remember during that LSU game where we were beating them pretty handily and they came back after halftime. Like a bunch of the old LSU players were on the sideline for that game, and they was down there hyping them up, all that kind of stuff. Like it happens all the time that NFL players visit during game weekends when they don't have, if they're on a bye week that weekend. All right, cool, I'm gonna slide, or they got a game in the same town as the team is playing. That kind of stuff happens all the time. But for like stuff like Big Cat Weekend, absolutely. Like, training camp is going on, right? So you got to figure out whether or not there is an overlap with people's training camp schedule. So that makes it a little less likely. But yeah, it definitely could be a thing.
So I guess in closing, guys, there's a lot of panic with the fan base, but I really do think this coaching staff has worked incredibly hard to even put us in a position where we are with a lot of these top recruits. And I do feel good about where recruiting is in year one under this coaching staff. And I think it's going to get better. So I think there's a lot of positivity that we should, I mean, of course, Twitter is going to Twitter, but I think there's enough positivity and momentum around this coaching staff and the program to where I think there are a lot more better days ahead as it pertains to Auburn recruiting. But what say you guys before we transition on?
Yeah, man. I'm always going to be the guy preaching patience with the new coach. You're never going to hear me try to rush the timeline on a coach, regardless of what my enthusiasm as a fan is about wanting to see results quickly. Because I've fallen for the banana in the tailpipe pause before with early results looking really good that first season and getting excited, and then only to see it just dissipate almost as quickly as it ramped up. So I'm going to always be hey, let's be patient and figure this thing out. And I get that we're in a new day and age where people are able to do more. I'm not as super neurotic about recruiting as most people are in general. I'm definitely not in that space when the transfer portal is out there. It's just, it's one of those things where, all right, for instance, I really don't understand what's going to happen in that quarterback room at Ole Miss right now, but somebody is going to be discontent in that space. Like you can't convince me Ole Miss is going to go into the next season and they got that kid who reclassed, Walker Howard. I think Jackson Dart still has a year of eligibility. All of those guys are going to be there in that room again next year. Not that I want any of them to come to Auburn. I'm not saying that. My point is, just because they've decided to go somewhere and that was their first look does not mean that situation is over. It doesn't. It just means you didn't get them the first time around. And this is one of the very few situations in life where sloppy seconds is fine for me. Good. Cool. You had your opportunity. You went out there and you did your thing. That was cute. Come on home. So I'm not freaking out about where we are with some of these situations right now because of the way that the transfer portal exists right now. And I know what this staff's proficiency is with being able to work the transfer portal. If they hadn't shown me already that they could do this really well, maybe I would be a little bit more concerned. I wouldn't be that concerned in July. Let's be clear about that. But maybe the alert levels would be a little bit higher as we get into the season. I'm not even remotely there right now because I know we still have an opportunity, especially with young men who we've narrowly missed on. If they go to whatever school and it just doesn't feel like they thought it was going to be, I expect that phone to start ringing and coming, and they're saying, "Hey, y'all got a spot for me if I get up out of here next year."
Yeah, listen, man, re-recruiting your roster, I've said it time and time again, is now a thing. Yeah, and every year you got to convince a group of guys just to not leave you. Please don't leave me. Right? Like, I mean, you have to petition to those guys to stay. And the best way to do that is to honor the promises made during the recruiting process. So, some of those promises can be kept and some of them can't. And not always through any fault of the coach.
Right.
So, both sides have a part to play. And, one side figures out they can't hold up their end of the bargain. That freebie will be used to go do what you want.
One last question here before we get to the drawing. Brian Dawkins says Auburn should be an easy school to recruit. What's been the problem?
I think, listen, I don't think it's particularly hard right now. I just think proof of concept, man, like leaning on the whole, it's Auburn, it sells itself thing is come on, man. I think that's kind of turned it into a dated ideology when it comes to recruiting. There's a part of Auburn that sells itself, but ultimately kids still want to play for a winner. So for this to be true, you need to be a winner.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think any school sells itself to a 5-star.
Right.
No, right.
Because they can go literally wherever they want to.
Right.
Correct.
So I don't, it doesn't like to 4 stars and more on the lower end of that 4-star and definitely 3 stars.
Mm-hmm.
That sells itself thing gets you in the door. Right.
For sure.
Listen, Deion Sanders was able to get Travis Hunter to convince him to go to Jackson State for his first year of college. Sells itself. You have to be. Those kids can go wherever they can pick up the phone right now. There are very few places that wouldn't say, "Yeah, absolutely, we got a scholarship for you."
Mm-hmm.
They don't. The environment by itself isn't going to sell them on coming. It's going to be a factor for sure. Like if they get there and, the place looks like a dump and, but Auburn doesn't have those problems, which is why they're making the top 5 list for these guys. Because, that portion, y'all got that figured out. Your facilities look good. You got the right kind of family environment. I like the campus. I like the town. The fans seem like they're embracing people. All of that kind of stuff gets you in the door, but that's not what's going to sell it. It isn't. And I said this morning, I'll repeat it again. Part of the issue of us being able to sell something with Auburn is there's not an actual product yet. You're selling people dreams right now.
Right.
And it's very difficult for a guy to buy into your dream when he has the pick of actual products out there that he can tangibly go and look at.
Mm-hmm.
That's difficult, man. That's a different kind of sale job, bro. And so to what Mike said earlier, if you get one of those guys to buy into that, it changes the trajectory of where you're going. If he's really that guy, if you get him here, he's a 5-star on the recruiting rankings and he plays like a 5-star when he walks in the door, it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
But to sell that with no product, that's different, bro. And Auburn, the mystique of Auburn, as much as I love it, ain't doing that for nobody who's a 5-star. They don't need you. They can literally go get the bag wherever they want to. They can reject as many bags as they want to and say, I'm just going to play in the place that I like the coach. It's the university. And I've said this before. Players do not, and I'll repeat this I don't know how many times we've said this, they don't commit to schools. They don't. They commit to coaches. So a coach with nothing to sell as far as a product is trying to sell a guy who doesn't need you. You got to be a really good salesman. I'm walking through the middle of the mall and you're trying to sell me on this thing that straightens my hair. Bro, I don't have hair. What are we having this conversation for? The fact that you got me to stop and talk to you, kudos. You're in the right position. Maybe you have an attractive woman that's standing there who's trying to sell it. Okay, cool. I'll stop and have a conversation with you. You realize I don't need this product, right? So if I buy it from you, it's merely because you did a really good job of selling it, and I'm going to give it to someone else. These 5-stars can do what they want to, man. They don't need Auburn's environment. They don't need the thrill of Jordan-Hare Stadium. I'm finna be in the NFL in 3 years. It's gonna be a lot of big stadiums I can go play in. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. Like I said, and this is not to diminish what you're trying to say, Brian. I understand the point of that you're making. My point is that it doesn't sell itself to those kids. Those kids, you got to sell something different. And we're probably still another year or two away from being able to sell that to multiple in a single recruiting class. If they pull it off this time, then those are some legit. I don't even know that we should even be able to have a conversation as to whether or not Coach Hugh Freeze is the best recruiter ever if he gets multiple 5 stars in his first full year. Why are we having a conversation as to whether or not he's a better recruiter than anybody else in the history of this school if he's selling it with no product? That's damn good. Just not there yet.
Well, I'll tell you where we are at. We're at the drawing. And what we're drawing and giving away is a T-shirt, courtesy of War Eagle Oil. Drop the hashtag and pass the Ike. He's going to draw.
Yeah, let's get to it, man. 83 people have entered. Only one can win. Somebody got to get a T-shirt tonight. Who is it going to be? So Nina.
Are you here? Are you here? So Nina, let us know.
I just saw Nina comment like 2 minutes ago. So
we're just gonna assume.
I mean, it's a fair assumption. She could have just popped in, been like, "Hey," and then dip right back out. But you know,
yeah, but she's still going to let us know some for sure. Oh,
boom.
We see you. We see you. Here's what you can do. Congratulations. Business at the War Rapport. Business at the War Rapport. We need your physical address and shirt size. And that shirt will be coming your way. Congratulations. And thanks again for supporting and watching the War Rapport. Gentlemen, it's all baseball. Baseball has a new pitching coach, Everett Tieford. Joins the coaching staff at Auburn University. Thoughts, guys, on this? Immediate thoughts on this?
Listen, I'll let you start, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, after Tim Hudson, right, I think a lot of people had questions about how they would fill that void, right? And they have had some struggles, I think, past beyond the starting pitching over the last couple seasons, and hopefully this is good addition for Butch. Just kind of solidify that and some of those close games that they did not win. Pitching is the difference, man. I think that pitching is the difference between champions and guys who are good but never get over the hump. I think Auburn has struggled there, so hopefully this spells improvement in that area for Auburn. And I'm looking forward to seeing. I trust Butch. So if he brings a guy on his staff, and I'm hopeful that that's going to be the right guy. But they certainly need some improvement in that area.
Yeah, listen, former pro guy. I think it's a good hire. Yet to be seen, kind of how he makes his decisions on rotations and getting guys. I mean, listen, quiet as it's kept, our pitching staff got better last season. It was definitely a sore, and I'm on record as saying that's a difficult thing to do for pitchers to get better as the season progresses. Just because a lot of it has to do with just how you locate pitches and like how you're choosing which pitches to go in which scenarios. And they were the outings that we had with this pitching staff early in the season looked so bad where I was just like, I don't know how this gets better, man. Like there's too many walks, too many hit batters. Like they were just putting themselves in too many bad situations. And I just didn't see how it was going to get better. They found a good rotation of guys in there. And we were able to get through a portion of that season without giving up a bunch of runs. And that's really what propelled us to being able to go on that run towards the end of the year, because the hitting was always in a decent place for the majority of the season. Now we got the bats did go cold, towards the end in certain spaces, but because the pitching was better, you put yourself in a position where you were always in games, which is why we had so many late inning wins, because the pitching put you in a position where you were still within striking distance because you had really good hitting. Hopefully we'll continue down that path of getting that, but we just didn't. I don't know that Auburn had a true ace last year that was healthy. And a lot of that just has to do with just having the guy, right? Like, think about Paul Skeens, the guy from LSU this year. Like, he'd have been an ace on whatever staff he was on. It doesn't matter. He walks in the door, he's your best pitcher. Right. And you just don't have that guy in the locker room. So you're going to have a guy who he doesn't overwhelm batters, but he's just going to be really good at pitch location. He's going to be really good at getting early at bat outs where only 2 or 3 pitches, but you're getting ground outs, pop outs, things like that. And that's the thing that I think your pitching coach can help you with. It's just like, all right, how are we setting these batters up to get them up out of here quickly in the right scenarios? And how do we get that middle area where you're not really an ace or a starter, but you don't have the stuff of a closer either. But how can we get 2 or 3 good middle innings out of you? We didn't have that very much at all last year. So hopefully we can get some more guys like that so we can win some more games early in the season and not put it down to the last 3 or 4 series to just get to the postseason. But anyway, I think it's a good hire, though.
We would definitely keep an eye on that with Auburn baseball. Also, some news with Auburn softball. They actually added Hannah Sparks, who actually spent last season as a volunteer assistant for the national champion Oklahoma Sooners. Thoughts on that, guys?
How many exits did we have from softball?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Like 5 or 6, right? Like between girls who had eligibility that decided they weren't going to use their final year and transfers. I think it was like 5 or 6, and I'm not even counting people who might have just like ran out of eligibility. So I don't know. I'd have to go look at the softball roster to even know where we sit with that right now.
Softball needs some love. They need some love. So any and all player and coaching help, I think, would be much appreciated on the softball field right now. Man, Ike and I had a conversation earlier today that I don't know. I don't want to broach it, but like those girls overachieved last year, and now I think they're having to hit the reset button. And this is welcome to the age of NIL, man, and the transfer portal. Right, like you've got to relock and reload every year, and softball is just needs. I mean, there was some controversy around the coach. I don't know if it was a real controversy, more so than just kind of stirred up drama. But I'm interested to see how this coach weathers the storm that was this offseason for him. I'm really interested to see how this coach weathers the storm, and I think he deserves a chance to do that with the full support of the fan base. So, see how he does it. This is part of it, man. This is part of the job, right? Is that, you've got to manage good times and tough times. And I think that they had a tough time in the wake of what I felt like was a very successful season, right? You were picked to finish in the bottom third of the conference. You didn't. You finished in the top third of the conference. And, and the postseason didn't go the way you wanted to, but to have key players exit the way they did and some of the things going on, like, softball needs some love, right? So I hope the fan base can get behind them. The coaches are going to have to it sounded like maybe there needs to be a little bit of a culture reset, right? And that starts with your leaders and your coaches. So, like, hopefully this is a good ad.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Oklahoma has the kind of culture of winning softball programs that you want to have somebody come over to your program from, right? So I think that it's good to add somebody with that kind of pedigree to the staff, but that's also a person who's going to be able to identify really quickly if it's not the kind of program that can win. And so, this is one of those things where I think John Cohen he's gonna have his eye on it, right? And if I were John Cohen and you just hired this young lady from a program that has the kind of pedigree that Oklahoma does in softball, after she's been in that building for a little while, I'd go and talk to her. But like, hey, there's a lot of whispers about this and this and that. How do you feel like we sit right now with our softball program? Because you just watched a team do this and they've been doing it. Are we in the right place with this program from your position on the inside now looking at this? It's going to tell a lot. So if I were John Cohen, that'd be the strategy that I would take. Let her get in here, get acclimated, figure out what's going on with the team, going through your processes, and then get an assessment from her. You know,
Right.
They've been saying things about Coach Dean. Is he the guy to take us to the next level? Or do we need to make a change at the top?
Sanford Johnson, appreciate you being on with us. He said, did the softball team do exit interviews? Why are folks leaving?
I don't know if they did exit interviews, but there were some exit interviews conducted on Twitter for sure.
Right.
Right? Like, they didn't ask for them, but boy, they got them. So, yikes.
Yeah. Haley Tubbs, appreciate you being on with us. Says scoring a coach from Oklahoma softball is a good start. I would have to agree. Brad Browning comes back and says, speaking of baseball, you guys Brave fans? I wouldn't say I'm a Braves fan, but I do root for them. I did root for them when they was in the World Series for sure.
Yeah. I root for the Braves.
Yeah, I'm not a Braves fan, but that's just because I don't have a baseball team that I root for, not because I don't like the Braves. I watch baseball as a casual observer, not as a guy who.
Yeah,
it's like.
Yeah, I remember
proximity to Atlanta made me a Braves fan.
Well, I mean the '90s too, like watching those guys play. I was like,
John
Smoke, that's really the only baseball
yeah.
team I can remember like seriously rooting for. So,
for sure.
It's not difficult for me to root for the Braves, seeing as though I've done it before, and they are close to Mike's point. So Nina says, I have sent the email. Thank you guys so much. Love the show. Thank you so much for sending the email and for supporting the show. Means a lot. Guys, any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Listen, man, again, I think the only closing thought I have is that there's a lot of things that have to be figured out in the short term for Auburn, right? Like they new apparel situation might be happening. I don't envy the job that an athletic director has, man, especially when you're in situations like what John Cohen walked into, where you've got to hire a football coach like day one when you get in here. You've got to make decisions about stuff like this with your softball coach. It's tough, man. It's tough to be in that position, especially when you haven't had an opportunity to really develop those relationships and you're kind of leaning on other people, which is why I think it was so clutch that he was able to keep Rich McGlynn on the staff, man, somebody who kind of knows the landscape. But hopefully we're going to see some, the everything school that we go out here and we cheer so loudly about. Hopefully this is the year where we start to really improve that on multiple fronts. And we really have a football team that people can start to be super proud of. We can continue a winning tradition in basketball. We can continue a winning tradition in baseball. We can go out here and change the trajectory of where that softball team, there's all of these teams, let's continue to be everything, man. And hopefully the fan base figures out how to not be so impatient, but I know it's asking a lot.
Yeah, listen, got an email today that said Auburn sold out season tickets.
Yeah, for a fan base that apparently was on the decline, says some random report out there. And for all of these people out here on social media talking about how the fans are so terrible for Auburn, selling out record number of season tickets, I don't know if those two narratives align with one another. I get that this is on the tail end of the apathy that was the previous tenure of the coach, but yeah, man, I think fan sentiment is in a good place, especially considering all of the upheaval that happened with the hiring, right? Like there were just so many people who were so vocal and so adamant about it that they were not going to support Auburn. And I feel as if it almost just opened the door for other people to say, okay, great. Well, that means I can get your season ticket. Thanks.
Right.
So congrats to them for setting the record.
Hugh Freeze and the coaching staff has generated a lot of excitement in a short period of time. Let's keep the momentum going and get some dubs in year one, close out a strong recruiting class. I think they can do it. They've done a lot to build up the morale. Let's keep the momentum going. I'm looking forward to it. Guys, Media Days is a few weeks away. That's going to jumpstart everything. And pretty soon, before you know it, we will be here covering the season. So I'm excited for it. But until then, we have some amazing content that we're going to be showing in the off season, and I can tell you exactly how you can get access to that.
All you got to do is click that join button and you can become a member. We will have so many things for you all to check out. Tomorrow is Thursday, man. It got here really quickly with the holiday. So film review tomorrow. I've got plenty of it. So we're going to get out there and we are going to review some films. So you guys make sure you lock in with that. If you are a member, you can gift a membership just like Frankie did. Thank you for gifting memberships to those of you who are out there. And if you got a free membership this month, thank Frankie for that. We want to thank those who are continuing to support us by purchasing stuff from our website. Head to thewarreport.com and you can get some merch. Congrats again to Nina for winning the shirt today. And then if you happen to be a podcast listener, you have a lot of options of ways to support the War Report. You can fill up an entire morning and afternoon ride now with War Report, the War Report Podcast Network content that's out there. There are probably multiple dropping on a single day for you guys out of the network now. So make sure that you guys rock with the College Loop, the Auburn Express, and the Uptempo podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, and you will be getting great War Report content that way.
And we appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this stream and this video, show us that you enjoyed it by sharing this content, smashing that like button, and subscribing if you're new to the channel. You can find us on social media. That is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The War Rapport. We are TW Rapport on TikTok. Tipper now, guys, but Ike will be back with some film review stuff for the privileged that can see it. But we'll definitely be back on Friday with the morning drop. And until then, enjoy the rest of your evening. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.